Jeremy. Today's day 372 of reading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Let's get started. We are currently on page 145. Yes, said Mrs. Fig. I felt them. Everything went cold, and this was a very warm summer's night, mark you. And I felt as though all the happiness had gone from the world, and I remembered dreadful things. Her voice shook and died. Madame Bone's eyes widened slightly. Harry could see red marks under her eyebrows where the monocles had dug into it. And what did the Dementors do? She asked, and Harry felt a rush of hope. They went for the boys, said Mrs. Fig, her voice stronger and more confident now, the pink flush ebbing away from her face. One of them had fallen. The other was backing away, trying to repel the Dementor. That was Harry. He tried twice and produced silver vapor. On the third attempt, he produced a Patronus, which charged down the first Dementor and then, with his encouragement, chased away the second from his cousin. And that was what happened, Mrs. Fig finished somewhat lamely. Madame Bones looked down at Mrs. Fig in silence. Fudge was not looking at her at all, but fidgeting with his papers. Finally, he raised his eyes and said, rather aggressively, "That's what you saw, is it?" That was what happened, Mrs. Fig repeated. Very well, said Fudge. You may go. Mrs. Fig cast a frightened look from Fudge to Dumbledore, then got up and shuffled off toward the door again. Harry heard a thud shut behind her. Not a very convincing witness, said Fudge loftily. Oh, I don't know, said Madame Bones in her booming voice. She certainly described the effects of a Dementor attack very accurately, and I can't imagine why she would say they were there if they weren't. But Dementors wandering into a Muggle suburb just happening to come across a wizard? Snorted Fudge. The odds on that must be very, very long. Even Bagman wouldn't have bet. Oh, I don't think any of us believed the Dementors were there by coincidence, said Dumbledore lightly. The witch sitting to the right of Fudge with her face in the shadow moved slightly, but everyone else went quite still and silent. And what is that supposed to mean? Said Fudge icily. It means that I think they were ordered there, said Dumbledore. I think we might have a record of it if someone had ordered a pair of Dementors to go strolling through Little Winging, barked Fudge. Not if the Dementors are taking orders from someone other than the Ministry of Magic these days, said Dumbledore calmly. I have already given you my views on this matter, Cornelius. Yes, you have, said Fudge forcefully, and I have no reason to believe that your views are anything other than oblige. Dumbledore, the Dementors remain in place in Azkaban and are doing everything we ask them to. Then, said Dumbledore, quietly but clearly, we must ask ourselves why somebody within the Ministry ordered a pair of Dementors into that alleyway on the 2nd of August. In the complete silence that greeted these words, the witch to the right of Fudge leaned forward so that Harry saw her for the first time. He thought she looked just like a large pale toad. She was rather squat with a broad, flabby face, a little neck as Uncle Vernon, and a very wide, slack mouth. Her eyes were large, round, and slightly bulging. Even the little black velvet bow perched on top of her short, curly hair put him in mind of a large fly she was about to catch on a long, sticky tongue. The Chim recognizes Dolores Jane Umbridge, Senior Undersecretary to the Minister, said Fudge. The witch spoke in a fluttery, girlish, high-pitched voice that took Harry aback. He had been expecting a croak. A little bit of a spoiler. She is very bad. I mean, it's kind of obvious. I'm sure I must have misunderstood you, Professor Dumbledore, she said with a simper that left her big, round eyes as cold as ever. So silly of me, but it sounded for a teensy moment as though you were suggesting that the Ministry of Magic had ordered an attack on this boy. She gave a silvery laugh and that made the hairs on the back of Harry's neck stand up. A few other members of the Wizengamot laughed with her. It could not have been plainer that not one of them was really amused. If it is true that the Dementors are taking orders only from the Ministry of Magic, and it is also true that the two Dementors attacked Harry and his cousin a week ago, then it follows logically that someone at the Ministry might have ordered the attacks. said Dumbledore politely. Of course, these particular Dementors might have been outside the Ministry's control. There are no Dementors outside Ministry control, snapped Fudge, who had turned brick red. Dumbledore inclined his head in a little bow. Then undoubtedly the Ministry will make a full inquiry into why 2 Dementors were so very far from Azkaban, and why they attacked without authorization. It is not for you to decide what the Ministry of Magic does or does not do, Dumbledore, snapped Fudge, now a shade of magenta of which Uncle Vernon would have been proud of. Of course it isn't, said Dumbledore mildly. I was merely expressing my confidence that this matter will not go uninvestigated. He glanced at Madame Bones, who readjusted her monocle and stared back at him, frowning slightly. I would remind everybody that the behavior of these Dementors, if indeed they are not figments of this boy's imagination, is not the subject of his hearing, said Fudge. We are here to examine Harry Potter's offenses under the decree for reasonable restriction of underage sorcery. Of course we are, said Dumbledore, but the presence of Dementors in that alleyway is highly relevant. Clause 7 of the decree states that magic may be used before Muggles in exceptional circumstances, as those exceptional circumstances include situations that threaten the life of the wizard or witch himself, or witches, wizards, or Muggles present at the time of the... We are familiar with Clause 7. Thank you very much, snarled Fudge. Of course you are, said Dumbledore courteously. Then we are in agreement that Harry's use of the Patronus charm in these circumstances fall precisely into the category of exceptional circumstances it describes. If there were Dementors, which I doubt... You have heard from an eyewitness, Dumbledore interrupted. If you still doubt her truthfulness, call her back, question her again. I am sure she would not object. I thought not, blustered Fudge, fiddling with the papers before him. I want this over with today, Dumbledore. But naturally you would not care how many times you heard from a witness if the alternative was a serious miscarriage of justice, said Dumbledore. Serious miscarriage my hat, said Fudge at the top of his voice. Have you ever bothered to tot up the number of cock and bull stories this boy has come out with, Dumbledore, while trying to cover up his flagrant misuse of magic out of school? I suppose you've forgotten the hover charm he used 3 years ago. That wasn't me, it was a house elf, said Harry. You see, roared Fudge, gesturing flamboyantly in Harry's direction. A house elf in a Muggle house. I ask you... The house elf in question is currently in the employ of Hogwarts School, said Dumbledore. I can summon him here in an instant to give evidence if you wish. I haven't got time to listen to house elves. Anyway, that's not the only. He blew up his aunt, for God's sake, Fudge shouted, banging his fist on the judge's bench and upsetting a bottle of ink. And you very kindly did not press charges on that occasion, accepting, I presume, that even the best wizards cannot always control their emotions, said Dumbledore calmly, as Fudge attempted to scrub the ink off his notes. And I haven't even started on what he gets up to at school. But as the Ministry has no authority to punish Hogwarts students for misdemeanors at school, Harry's behavior there is not relevant to this inquiry, said Dumbledore, politely as ever, but now with a suggestion of coolness behind his words. Oh ho, said Fudge, not our business what he does at school, eh? You think so? The Ministry does not have the power to expel Hogwarts students, Cornelius, as I reminded you on the night of the 2nd of August, said Dumbledore, nor does it have the right to confiscate wands until charges have been successfully proven, again as I reminded you on the night of the 2nd of August. In your admirable haste to ensure that the law is upheld, you appear inadvertently, I'm sure, to overlook a few laws yourself. Laws can be changed, said Fudge savagely. Of course they can, said Dumbledore, inclining his head, and you certainly seem to be making some changes, Cornelius. Why, in the few short weeks I was asked to leave the Wizengamot, it has already become the practice to hold a full criminal trial to deal with the simple matter of underage magic. A few of the wizards above them shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Fudge turned a slightly deeper shade of puce. The toad-like witch on his right, however, merely gazed at Dumbledore, her face quite expressionless. Thank you everyone also for today. Bye, see you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to read page 150. Bookmark, close. Peace out.